These meditations adapted from the book Meditations by the philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius take us on a deep journey within the human soul, where he reveals the power of the mind to adapt to the vicissitudes of life, and invites us to inner calm and discipline in thinking. It is a reminder that peace is not demanded outside, but is built inside, and that true wisdom lies in understanding the nature of the world and accepting its changes, while steadfast in virtue and reason. Aye, that inward mistress part of man, if it be in its own true natural temper, is towards all worldly chances and events ever so disposed and affected, that it will easily turn and apply itself to that which may be, and is within its own power to compass, when that cannot be which at first it intended, for it never doth absolutely addict and apply itself to any one object, but whatsoever it is that it doth now intend and prosecute, it doth prosecute it with exception and reservation, so that whatsoever it is that falls out contrary to its first intentions, even that afterwards it makes its proper object, even as the fire when it prevails upon those things that are in his way, by which things indeed a little fire would have been quenched, but a great fire doth soon turn to its own nature, and so consume whatsoever comes in his way. Yea, by those very things it is made greater and greater. 2. Ting bidi da andachiranum. But all things according to the most exact and perfect rules of art. 3. They seek for themselves private retiring places, as country villages, the seashore, mountains. Yea, thou thyself art wont to long much after such places. But all this thou must know proceeds from simplicity in the highest degree. At what time soever thou wilt, it is in thy power to retire into thyself, and to be at rest and free from all businesses. A man cannot any whither retire better than to his own soul, he especially who is beforehand provided of such things within, which whensoever he doth withdraw himself to look in, may presently afford unto him perfect ease and tranquility. By tranquility I understand a decent orderly disposition and carriage, free from all confusion and tumultuousness. Afford then thyself this retiring continually, and thereby refresh and renew thyself. Let these precepts be brief and fundamental, which as soon as thou dost call them to mind, may suffice thee to purge thy soul throughly, and to send thee away well pleased with those things whatsoever they be, which now, again after this short withdrawing of thy soul into herself, thou dost return unto. For what is it that thou art offended at? Can it be at the wickedness of men, when thou dost call to mind this conclusion, that all reasonable creatures are made one for another, and that it is part of justice to bear with them, and that it is part of justice to bear with them, and that it is against their wills that they offend, and how many already, who once likewise prosecuted their enmities, suspected, hated, and fiercely contended, are now long ago stretched out and reduced unto ashes. It is time for thee to make an end. As for those things which among thee common chances of the world happen unto thee as thy particular lot and portion, canst thou be displeased with any of them, when thou dost call that our ordinary dilemma to mind, either a Providence or Democritus his atoms, and with it whatsoever we brought to prove that the whole world is as it were one city? And as for thy body, what canst thou fear, if thou dost consider that thy mind and understanding, when once it hath recollected itself and knows its own power, hath in this life and breath, whether it runs smoothly and gently, or whether harshly and rudely, no interest at all, but is altogether indifferent. And whatsoever else thou hast heard and assented unto concerning either pain or pleasure, but the care of thine honor and reputation will perchance distract thee. How can that be, if thou dost look back, and consider both how quickly all things that are forgotten, and what an immense chaos of eternity was before, and will follow after all things, and the vanity of praise, and the inconstancy and variableness of human judgments and opinions, and the narrowness of the place, wherein it is limited and circumscribed? For the whole earth is but as one point, and of it, this inhabited part of it, is but a very little part. And of this part, how many in number? And what manner of men are they that will commend thee? What remains then, but that thou often put in practice this kind of retiring of thyself, to this little part of thyself, and above all things, keep thyself from distraction, and intend not anything vehemently, but be free and consider all things, as a man whose proper object is virtue, as a man whose true nature is to be kind and sociable, as a citizen, as a mortal creature, among other things, which to consider, and look into thou must use to withdraw thyself. Let those two be among the most obvious and at hand. 1. That the things or objects themselves reach not unto the soul, but stand without still and quiet, and that it is from the opinion only which is within, that all the tumult and all the trouble doth proceed. The next, that all these things, which now thou sayest, shall within a very little while be changed. And binumori called mine, how many changes and alterations in the world thou thyself hast already been an eyewitness. Avindate Jimmy, this world is mere change, and this life, opinion. 4. If to understand and to be reasonable be common unto all men, then is that reason, for which we are termed reasonable, common unto all. If reason is general, then is that reason also, which prescribeth what is to be done and what not, common unto all. If that, then law. If law, then are we fellow citizens. If so, then are we partners in some one commonweal. If so, then the world is as it were a city. For which other commonweal is it that all men can be said to be members of? From this common city it is that understanding, reason, and law is derived unto us. For from whence else? For as that which in me is earthly I have from some common earth, and that which is moist from some other element is imparted. As my breath and life hath its proper fountain, and that likewise which is dry and fiery in me. For there is nothing which doth not proceed from something, as also there is nothing that can be reduced unto mere nothing. So also is there some common beginning from whence my understanding hath proceeded. As generation, so also death, a secret of nature's wisdom, a mixture of elements, resolved into the same elements again, a thing surely which no man ought to be ashamed of, in a series of other fatal events and consequences, which a rational creature is subject unto, not improper or incongruous, nor contrary to the natural and proper constitution of man himself.